Hello everybody and welcome back to Slow Damage. Let's continue. The pain swelled in my ankle had receded considerably, so I could walk on it again as long as I didn't put too much weight on it. At the park I could see a handful of children playing on the playground, their mothers engaged in idle gossip nearby. A short distance away, I could see a man in a black suit standing in the shade of a tree looking entirely overdressed, probably Takasato thug. I looked out at the children, scanning each of them in turn. If the Takasato Gumi had them staked out, then that meant... Sure enough, Hayato was there, playing in the sandbox. His mother had run off with the money from the store. Kotaru was in charge of running. Once I confirmed that Hayato was here, I walked to an empty bench and sat down. As I watched him, I pulled my sketch pad and pencil set from my tote bag. Hayato didn't try to play with the other kids. Instead, he kept to himself. His smoke was pale yellow. There was a reason I had wanted to find this kid. This morning, when I was having my usual smoke, his face suddenly rose to mind. Every now and then I would have these sudden flashes of something that bothered me. So what was bothering me this time? It was that curiosity that brought me to this park, hoping Hayato would be here. Alternatively, he wasn't here. I figured I'd sketch some other kids and try to work it out that way. I ran my pencil over the paper as I watched Hayato quietly building his sandcastle. Then, partway into my sketch, he spotted me. He saw me drawing and frowned, puzzled, then he lost interest and went back to his project. Or so I thought, but then he got to his feet and ran straight over to me. I pretended not to notice. I didn't want him bugging me. He came to a stop right in front of me and peeked at my sketch pad.
何してるの?
His voice was innocent, with a faint hint of a lisp.
絵を描いてる。
I answered without looking up.
何を書いてるの?
子供。
僕のことも書いてた?
さあな。
The next thing I knew, he was moved right up beside me, so close that our thighs touched. He leaned against my arm and peered closely at my sketch pad. His faint yellow smoke wavered right in front of me. Again, I felt the same inexplicable emotions I felt this morning when his face came to mind.
朝倉先生は優しいか?
I asked quietly as I continued to draw.
うん、とっても優しいよ。
朝倉先生のこと好きか?
うん、大好き。
Yato answered enthusiastically. He smelled faintly sweet like candy. Suddenly my pencil fell still. Yato was touching my face. His little index finger was tracing the scar that snaked across the bridge of my nose. When I looked up from my sketchpad, I found him staring at me with puppy dog eyes.
ねえ、この傷、どうしたの?
He fumbled over his words as he stroked my scar.
痛いの?
Then something touched my thigh. I looked down and realized he was propping himself up with his other hand.
足も、怪我してるの?
He rubbed my thigh with his little... What the fuck? This kid. He looked up at me, his lips slightly parted, his brow furrowed. I had no interest in children, but if I put myself in the mindset of a pedophile, these little gestures didn't seem so innocent anymore. He probably didn't even realize he was doing anything wrong. From his perspective, he just wanted someone to care about him. His behavior wasn't specifically targeted at Sakura. He was like this with every adult in his life. In other words, this was just a survival tactic. Judging from the bruise on his face and the fact that his own mother ditched him, it was safe to say he was love-starved. He was now so close, he was starting to make me uncomfortable, but before I could push him away...
Hayato-kun!
The alarmed voice shouted his name. I looked over to find Asakura standing there in shock, shoulders heaving. He walked straight over to the bench and gently pulled Hayato's head against his chest. The boy clung to him gleefully.
急に姿が見えなくなったからびっくりしたよ。
先生が忙しそうだったから公園で遊んでようと思ったの。
ちゃんと言わないとダメだって言っただろ。
Asakura scolded him gently, then glared at me.
君はどうしてここに。
I held up my sketch pad in a do-your-eyes-work gesture. He frowned, hesitant. I could draw your angels for you.
絵を描くのか。
ああ。
ここで何を描いてたんだ。
I flipped the sketch pad open to a page I was just at. Asakura sucked in a breath.
天使だ。
He murmured quietly, his eyes glued to the drawing of Hayato.
天使
I repeated the words meaningfully, and he looked at me in surprise. He must have said it unconsciously. His eyes slowly sharpened and panic set in. Without another word, he turned and started guiding Hayato away. Hayato frowned up at him, confused.
先生、お家に帰るの？
先生の病院に帰るんだよ。
そっか。お兄ちゃん、バイバイ。
He waved at me, then headed off with Asakura. As they retreated into the distance, I felt my suspicion turn to conviction. Asakura and Hayato were a catastrophic combination. But if Asakura didn't get help for his problem, it was Hayato who would pay the price. Especially if Asakura saw Hayato as his own personal angel. Something had to be done before he lost control. Yeah, so we are going to stop it. That night, I was lying on the sofa staring at the ceiling and smoking a cigarette when my phone buzzed. If you wonder why I keep looking away, I'm babysitting a puppy. Those that don't know, I have a beagle puppy. He's very cute, but oh my god, is he a troublemaker. I sat up and grabbed it off the coffee table. Another one of those religious poems. You are the only one who can save me. I cannot bear it any longer. Heavenly Father, I beg of you, answer my prayer before it's too late. This time the sender attached a file to the email. It was a photo of an angel doll. An ordinary Christmas tree ornament from the looks of it. But the doll was laying on a work desk with its wings torn off. Child angel. Desire to have his own personal angel. Those were his exact words. I rose to my feet, crushed my cigarette in the ashtray, then I pulled on my coat and stuffed my phone in my pocket. I recognized the desk in the photo. I left my apartment, took the elevator to the ground floor, and on my way to the exit when Taku walked out from the waiting room. Apparently, he had stayed late that night.
こんな時間にどこへ行くんだ？
Gonna save a kid, be back later. Make me some coffee.
鷹の口委員
理由は？
朝倉からユーフォリア宛てにメールが来た。
朝倉先生から？どういうことだ？
Don't ask me any questions, need to go save a kid.
今回が初めてじゃない。前から何通もだ。
pulled my phone out of my pocket and showed him the email with the attachment. He frowned dubiously.
どうしてこれが朝倉先生だと分かったんだ？
Don't ask me questions.
他にも判断材料がある。
もし違ったらどうする？
Then I'm wrong.
朝倉だ。
He let out a conflicted sigh.
お前、足の怪我もまだ治ってないんだぞ。それでも一人で行く気なのか？
ああ。
Frankly, he knew better than to think he could stop me. His lips twisted in a defeated grimace.
分かった。終わったら連絡しろ。一線は越えるなよ。絶対に。
In other words, don't get yourself killed. I nodded my assent, and then left the building. Exhaling white fog, I looked up at the pitch-black sky. Asakura was now extremely emotionally volatile. He was so desperate for help, he was grasping at straws. If I didn't take action, he might really clip an angel's wings. And the perfect candidate was close at hand. In fact, he was probably with him right this very moment. But could Euphoria truly save him, or... If I head over now, I could still make it in time. Asakura is at Takanoichi waiting for Euphoria. A bit of a shorter episode, but now we'll do the exploration. Okay, nope. So I'm gonna leave it here. Shorter episode, yes. But the next one's going to be, I have a feeling, very long. See you guys then. Yes, I'm evil. Bye.
Night.